Hello everyone, welcome back, and thank you for joining us on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast, where every week Jeff Glover will dive deep into the questions that you are asking. He understands the challenges you are facing on a day-to-day basis because he still works every day on the front lines of real estate with him and his team closing over 1,000 homes per year. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing Carin Nguyen on how to establish a process, implement, and repeat. You will learn from Jeff and Carin how to double your business by implementing an established process and sticking to it. Now, let's hear from Jeff Glover and Carin Nguyen.
We're going to be hearing from Carin Nguyen, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about her story. I'm going to kind of skip the intro because she's just going to give her own intro, so hopefully that's okay, Carin. So if everyone would give a warm welcome to Miss Carin Nguyen. Let's hear it for her. Welcome back. Grab a seat. Thanks again for joining us on the stage. So you don't know this, but I have been kind of observing in the distance for probably the last, I don't know, maybe even 15 years, because we met even before we met in Gary's mastermind. And you know, I've always looked up to you. I've always respected you for not only your business, but your professionalism, your class, your drive. And I think that, you know, one of the things that motivated me to ask you to come speak here is that not enough people know how amazing you really are. So
appreciate that.
Hopefully,
thank you so much.
After the last couple days, people got to know you a little bit, and we're going to get to know you a little bit here more. So why don't you start off, just share a little bit about kind of how you got started in the business. You know, obviously I do have some questions based on what you shared on your panel. So we'll get into that in a second, but I want to hear a little bit about your story because there's probably things that I don't even know. So take it away.
Absolutely. So we're going to start the real estate journey, but before I hop into the real estate journey, I think it's really important. I only take 2 to 3 minutes, but kind of starting more with things that happen in life, because it's really important, I think, for you to understand where people come from, to understand what drives them and why they do the things that they do. So if that's okay, do I have your permission to take 2 to 3 minutes to do that? Thank you so much for those that give me the acknowledgement. If not, I'm going anyway. So I actually was born to parents who met in a drug rehab. I found out just in the last couple of years that I was actually born addicted to heroin. And when I say these things, I'll say a couple of things, and you're going to say, why is she up there and she doesn't have a lot of emotion around that? And there's a couple of reasons. The first one is I think things happen for us and not to us. And when we can get outside of our suffering, I think we can always find a gift. Can you imagine how many less people we would have addicted to drugs if they came out withdrawn and felt that pain already? That is a gift. So I see it definitely as a gift. Very difficult childhood, went to 10 different schools, very similar. I appreciated hearing Jeff's story yesterday because that was a similarity with my childhood as well. And grew up very poor. And I was definitely the minority in most of the schools that I went to. So very different upbringing, you know, than the life I've given to my children. The other piece that I think that's important to point out is I was homeless for pretty much all of 3rd grade. Never on the street, but lived in hotels and then couch to couch. And so also I think that contributes a little bit to my drive. Got to high school.
I would think so.
Got pregnant in high school from my high school sweetheart at the age of 17. And lived at home with my mom. We were both very high D's, so we had 2 chiefs and 1 little Indian in the house, so it was very important to me to get out and have my own place. So by the time I was 19, I had bought my own house. It was a new build, actually, with sweat equity. I painted the house for my down payment, and off I went. First job was as a telemarketer for a brand new business, calling cold out of the phone book. And that business did not survive, but not because I wasn't doing well in sales. I just made some bad choices there. From there, I went into banking, from banking into lending, and lending took me into real estate. And as you heard me say a little bit yesterday, I started in lending and did lending in real estate for both for a time as I got going. And things really started changing in the lending environment, and I had to pick a side. So I picked the real estate side. I love real estate. I love dealing with people, and I think that was the right choice. I trust that was the right choice, absolutely.
What year was that when you got into real estate?
That was in 2003. Is at the very end of 2003. So I had
Same
been
year I got in.
Yeah, yes,
same
we've been
year.
exactly the same time that we've been in the business. I was married about 10 months, had a young child, and also my daughter was then 6. And I got going, and there was no direction. Lo and behold, there's no direction. The broker was not the boss. Nobody told me what to do every single day, and I struggled. I went to a lot of different classes trying to find out, Matt Sutter talked about that on day 1. I went to something and then tried a little bit of it, and that didn't work, and I shifted gears, and I tried something else, but not ever long enough to have anything stick. And so I got invited to a half-day session for some, coaching company. I didn't know it was a coaching company. And I went there, and Bob, we both know Bob, was up there, doing his thing. And I was at a point of just feeling a little bit desperate, to be honest. We were living off of our equity line, and I wasn't fulfilling my obligation, I didn't feel like, to our family. And so he painted a really great picture, and he did say, this is going to be $1,000 a month, to which I definitely did not have at the time, and I signed up. I wish I could tell you that changed the whole trajectory. That was part of it. It did definitely help. They aligned me with a coach that was really great for me, a mother as well. But I was not doing everything that she said. So the accountability piece was really spectacular, but there was a miss because I was not following the scripts. I was doing some of the things, but I wasn't getting the results. And she was smart enough to see behind my stuff, my stories, and she dug into that.
That's good. That's what a coach is supposed to do.
And that's what a coach is supposed to do. And so I appreciated that.
You couldn't out-manipulate her, huh?
No, I could not out-trick her, which I really appreciated, because your coach is not supposed to be your friend. Your coach is supposed to, if you don't dislike your coach sometimes, you don't have the right coach. It's not supposed to be your cheerleader all the time.
No, they're supposed to tell you things that make you mad on a regular basis.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's easy for me.
That's easy, yes. And so I remember looking at some of those scripts and saying, who says that? I wouldn't say that to somebody. And just getting to a point of such frustration. I remember sitting in my home office and just crying and feeling really desperate and saying, I'm kind of stubborn and obstinate. And I said, I'm going to show that these scripts don't work. I'm going to follow this to the T, and I'm going to show this doesn't work. And you guys probably know what happened. Those scripts work. And I did a lot better at setting appointments. I also went out, I was door knocking. I was working expireds at the time, and I would door knock, and there's a lot of rejection. I mean, real estate is a hard gig. I had a lot of rejection in my younger years, though, so I feel like that set me up for rejection later, that I was a little bit more calloused for that.
Yep, you're ready for it.
I was ready for that. And eventually my business really started to take off. So I went from doing 8 deals in that first year into the second year, I got into the low 30s. And then the third year, I didn't do a lot more than that, but I had another child. So I was more towards the high 30s. And then our market shifted. And
what year was that?
That would have been in 07. We really started to feel it in 07.
I did want to ask a follow-up question. In many agents are in this position, right? Obviously, when they first join a coaching program, you couldn't afford it. Would you put it on a credit card? I mean, did you go into debt over it?
Yes, thanks for saying that, because I wanted to point that out. I did not have the $12,000.
Yep.
I had, I think maybe like a $2,000 to $3,000 limit on my card, and my thinking was, well, if it's going to do all these things that he said it's going to do
in
for
3
my
months,
business,
I can start paying it down.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start paying this down.
Yep.
And so that's exactly what happened.
Got it. Okay. So I didn't mean to cut you off. We were up to 2007. The market crashed.
Yes, market crashed. Actually, I think another really important thing for me, I wanted to make sure I mentioned, and I'm glad that you pointed that out because it triggered this memory, is in hiring an assistant. Just like with, how many of us in here have kids besides me? Is there other people in here who have kids? Okay, great. By show of hands, how many of you have gotten a babysitter for your child before? Or daycare, childcare? Not as many? Are you sure?
Yeah, see, they're
okay,
shy.
there they go back
they're shy.
up.
It's
Okay,
day
there they
3.
go back
Some of
up.
them aren't up yet. It's still
They're
early.
not awake yet. Okay, so do you say when you get a babysitter, I need to have the income for the babysitter for the entire year? Of course not. So why do we do that with an assistant? And also, why is it okay for somebody to watch our kids? We have permission for somebody to watch what the most important thing is in our life, but we're afraid to give away tasks in a real estate transaction because we perceive those to be more important than somebody watching our child. It just does not register for me.
That's a great analogy.
And so when I hired my first assistant, it did so many different things for me. And just like the coaching, I did not have to have her entire salary for the year. I just needed to be able to afford to pay her for the next 90 days, because if she wasn't giving me leverage and my business wasn't growing, she wasn't the right fit. That's how I saw that. And it did a couple magical things. Number one is I worked out of my home office. I have an excellent work ethic, but I did come down in my pajamas because I'm very impatient like Jeff, and I just wanted to get on the phone and get going and get calling.
Yeah.
One of the things I didn't realize by doing that, though, is that I wasn't ready to go out on an appointment. I wasn't dressed. So how hard do you think I closed to do an appointment that day versus the next day? Not as hard.
Correct, because you'd have to go hurry up and get ready and all that.
Correct. So, and obviously when you're making appointments, the sooner you can get in front of them, the higher likelihood that they're going to show, you're going to convert, all those things. So by hiring that assistant, I started going on more appointments because I didn't come down in my PJs anymore. She was there. I came down ready to go. I got up earlier. I was there. I had accountability. I was responsible for her income. And the other bonus is that I actually had a babysitter in the house. So I'd put, one of the kids in their high chair, they're ready to go, and I'd run out and I'd go to an appointment, and she'd work and watch the kids at the same time.
If I can add something to that, because it drives me crazy, and don't get mad. I have some of our agents from of course, all of JGA's here as well. When I see an agent come in casual and respond with, well, if I set an appointment today, I'll go home and change.
No, you won't.
Correct. Well, the reality is, yes, you'll go home and change, but you won't set an appointment with that mentality, right? You won't set an appointment with that kind of mentality because you have an option, right? If I get one, I'll do this. If not, it doesn't matter. No, the reality is if you show up dressed to impress every single day, your mentality is, I want to go show this suit off. I gotta go show people, how good I look today. And so you want to set an appointment. You want to go get in front of people versus, if I set an appointment, I'll go home and suit up. Of course, I'll change. I can change, no problem. No, you come in dressed and ready to go every single day.
Absolutely. And the way you're dressed, I think, is reflective of your mindset. Because I can feel it when I'm dressed more casual. I'm lazier.
Yep.
I'm feeling that on firing all cylinders.
And the reality is you should want to get in front of someone every single day. So if our goal is to get in front of someone,
you got in front of at least one person.
And if we're going to get in front of one person every single day, you got to be dressed every day for that.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I wanted to.
I love it. Those are all these are important points for us to make. So the market crashes, and I actually got solicited to do some valuations on homes because I was I was in coaching, and this bank called and said, "Will you do some valuations on some houses?" And I thought, I've heard of this, where people get taken advantage of, but sure, it's an opportunity. I'll do a few of them.
Like BPOs.
BPOs, yeah.
Yep, got it. Okay.
BPOs, broker price opinions, for those that weren't in the business then, which is just another way of saying a CMA, and mini appraisal. And I did a few of those, and they started giving me listing agreements for full 3%, and they weren't established. So I helped them basically build their REO division. They're a small bank out of Florida. And then I thought, this is a pretty good gig.
And this, by the way, this is Phoenix, Arizona.
It's Phoenix, Arizona, so we were one of the first to crash.
That's your market. You guys crashed hard, like
I was
Vegas,
in the
like Detroit, like Florida.
Area of Phoenix too. So our pretty quick, like within 18 months, we were at 50% of values that we were before that.
Yes.
So it crashed hard and fast.
Yep.
And I thought, this is really great. Let me go prospect let me do the same thing I did before. Let me prospect. Let me go get some more bank business.
Yep.
And so I did that, and I just, contact some of the banks, and I'd find out who the person was that I needed to talk to, and I'd call back the next day and say, oh, this is Carin Nguyen. I'm calling. I need to speak with, Scott Marlowe. And they'd say, oh, okay. And I would call like he's expecting my call, and I'd get through. And I continued to rinse and repeat that process. And I went basically from the high 30s to 200 transactions the first year I did REO by doing that.
Yep.
And then I did similar the next year. And I just kept repeating that process. And so by 2011, I had Fannie, Freddie, and HUD.
Yep.
And I didn't have any of those banks that I had in the first couple of years. And so I was really thankful that I continued. And I think that shows me too, just like our database, it's important to have your database, but you also want to make sure you're putting fresh things into your business.
Correct.
So I think it translates.
There's two parts. You need to fill the funnel, and then once people are in the funnel, you got to take care of them. But you can't stop filling the funnel. You've got to continue to get people into the funnel. And the only way to do that is by making outbound attempts, like we talked about on day one.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely, because things will happen. People will go through financial ruin and they may not buy a house. They may move out of state, people pass away. There's a lot of things that happen outside of our control. You can be an outstanding agent and then that database, could reduce in size. And so I think that's why it's really important. So same concept as it was for us, or for me rather, in REO. And then during that time, I also opened a brokerage because the 100% independent company I was at was giving me a hard time to do all these transactions. They said I was costing them money, and I definitely wasn't getting the love from them. And so I went out and started my own company.
And you probably were costing them money. It was probably not financially profitable for them, I'm sure.
No, but that's not my fault. They should have not created that model then.
Exactly, correct.
And then I started a company and I thought, I'm going to give away all this value and all this coaching and all these things, but the economic model just wasn't set up the correct way to do that.
It's tough.
And
That's why they call brokers.
Yeah,
Right,
they're
broke. Exactly. Yeah, they become broker as they transition to that role.
Correct. And so I made the decision to actually get out of brokerage and focus more on my team and growing a team. Because for me, that was more of having the economic wealth, but also an emotional return and an emotional wealth as well. Because I could really pour into the people at a deeper level and have an economic that
and you enjoy that.
Something too. Yeah.
Yep. So fast forward to today. What does your business look like today? One of the things you said from the panel was, and I might have misheard the number, but 300 last year, 500 this year. So let's take a look at what the business looks like today.
Yeah, so I think that going through REO, and even before REO, one of the things that I've been very good about is creating a process. I never want to have accidental success. And so I always create a model, a system, how I can rinse and repeat that. And so we've done that very well, actually, as we started a real estate team. If you're not, if you're an individual agent, you can do that yourself, though, saying, okay, if I have to type this email, make a template for that. Don't have to type it twice. If you do something that works, do that again and reflect on what we do. Sometimes we get stuck in moving so fast, we're not reflecting on, okay, what just happened at that appointment? Sometimes we beat ourselves up, but we don't reflect on, oh, that actually went really well. Do that again.
Yep.
And so I've done a good job documenting those things along the way.
Yep.
And so for me, it's about, again, you can kind of see that my energy gets excited in being able to do that for our agents and give them the model. Now, what I've also learned, though, is that we have, as people, have to do it ourselves, right? Just like my children, I say, don't touch the fire. Don't go out with that buyer without a buyer-broker agreement. And what do? They do that, and they learn, they get burned, and, that's just part of the nature. So you can give a model and a process, but, we have to learn as people as well. So I would say the biggest reason that we've doubled that count is a couple of reasons I would attribute that to.
So it was double, or you're on pace to double.
Our goal was to double it.
Yep.
We're a little bit short of that, a little over 500 instead of 600, but still
So from
really
300 to
great
500, what changed?
So we focused more on listings. Ironic that
Weird.
we're having this conversation.
Wonder why you're here.
Yes. So much higher focus on listings with all of our agents, not just focusing on certain personality styles, but letting all of our agents get a taste of what it feels like to go on listings and partnering up with agents maybe that are more comfortable to go on listings to let them see what that looks and feels like. And I think the other really big piece is leverage. So I've heard a lot of conversation about showing agent. If I look at our numbers, our agents have gone from doing on average 30 transactions a year to most of them are on target for 50 transactions this year, and they aren't not working any more hours. Some of them are actually working less hours. And I think it's part of that. I've been working really hard with their psychology and getting them to actually feel and experience it, because we come into real estate and most of us have a job before we get here. And so we see our percentage as our pay. And that's such the wrong way to look at it. We need to look at our pay as our hourly wage. And so the hourly wage for all of our agents has gone up because they're using showing agents. And so they're able to do more transactions. They're able to enjoy time with their family, enjoy their business, not be on the brink of burning out, but they're making more money while they do that. And now that they can feel and experience that, they're going, oh, okay, now I get it. But you have to kind of get through that a little bit and not count the pennies and look at the check and how much you gave away. You look at how much
That's
you
huge,
actually kept.
because that is there's probably two challenges that agents have with utilizing showing agents. Number one, no one can do it better than them, right? So nobody can do a better job than I can. And number two, why would I give that much commission away, right? Instead of thinking about what they're going to gain on the other end, and you just said it perfectly, that you have a value on your time. That's one of the least valuable things that you can do in a buyer transaction. So go spend it doing something more valuable, which is generating another buyer or generating another seller or presenting to another seller. And then calculate your average dollar per hour, like you just said, and you'll find that it'll go up, even though your check decreased.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So just switching the math that we look at, that we focus on and pay attention to.
Yep.
The other piece is we do a pretty good job talking about and focusing on personal development. I subscribe to, I'm really thankful and really blessed that during the REO time, one of my mentors during that time really encouraged us to go to different events. So, Darren Hardy as a mentor, Robin Sharma, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, and one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes says, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And so when I heard that, that really changed my life. And I think I looked back at all the things that my parents had done and how they subscribed more to like a victim mentality, like this is happening to us, or I'm not going to work that hard until, somebody gives me that title or gives me that opportunity or gives me that pay raise. And I think it's, ass backwards thinking. You have to look at that and say, okay, I'm going to work harder, I'm going to do these things, and then I will get this, right? And it's the be, do, have conversation. So if I can just kind of expand on that a little bit, and write that down. That's definitely a note taker. If there's nothing you've written down from this last couple of minutes, please write that one down. It's be, period, do, period, have. And most people as humans, we want to have first. It's like, well, once I have this, once I have the money, I'll sign up for coaching. Once I have more in escrow, I'll get a showing agent. And it's so backwards in our thinking that if you want to have these things, you have to become that person first. So if your goal is to make $100,000 or $200,000 or be the top listing agent in the area or whatever your goals are, gosh, it can go down to, if you're single or you're not with the right spouse, you want to be the person that attracts this person. It's like, well, who do you have to become to do that? And getting really clear and writing that list out, these are all the things that I need to become, because unfortunately, when we look up and say, I don't have what I want, I'm not surrounded by the right people, the only person that we can actually blame is ourselves. And you can say, well, that's heavy and that feels yucky. Yeah, it does. However, I look at it and feel empowered. Like, yes, that's right. So it's not on anyone else. I can choose to do some different things, make some different decisions. And when I do that, I will have this, I have become this because I've done this, and now I have these things that I want. And so I think that change of thinking has really benefited me in how I lead our team, the people that we attract, and really in changing their thinking as well.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, because if I'm in the audience and I just wrote that down, how do I become the person I want to become? Right? Starting with the be. How do I do that? What does that look like?
Well, I think first you have to get clear on writing out exactly what that person is. So if you want to be, I think we'll use an agent as an example, because that's the conversation that we're in. If you want to be a $100,000 or $200,000 agent, what is that person that's making $100,000 or $200,000 doing? And so you say, okay, well, they do all, what type of person are they? Because that's really the do.
How are they behaving?
Yeah.
How are they behaving?
How are they behaving? What are they thinking? What's going through their mind, right? When something happens to them, do they say, oh, I can't believe that this escrow fell out, and are they taking 3 days to get over it, or do they just say, man, that really stinks, I got to go get 3 more? That's the type of person that they are, and so then you can see that reflected in the activities that they do.
So it's almost like identifying characteristics or traits of the person that you would like to be, or that you think you want to be, and putting some steps into place, whether it's going to things like this, or reading books, or working out, or basically working on yourself to be more like that person that you wrote down you want to be.
We have to work on ourselves harder than we work on anything else. That's the bottom line. So absolutely. So you write down all the characteristics. I need to become gritty, resilient, consistent, professional.
And I know you've done that.
All those things,
So just model yourself after her. There you go.
Or Jeff.
All right, so 300 to 500, I heard a couple things in there. Number one, all of your agents take listings now, which is great. I always encourage that.
Yes.
And obviously the showing agent model that's a big help for your agents. And like you said, they're doing 40 to 50 deals versus 30 deals. What are your sources of listings? Where are your listings coming from? Their listings and your listings, either as a team or as individuals?
Yeah, so we do, and the other piece that I didn't mention was database. I also used to subscribe to the thinking, I think it's impatient, competitive people, like it's exciting for us to just go out and get new business.
Yes.
And then there's not this focus on the database.
Well, and by the way, that's it's amazing, hearing more about your story. We have so many similarities,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you built your business almost the same way I did. I mean, there's a lot of parallels in there, and again, yeah, same way.
Yeah.
That business will come later. If I give them a good service, yeah, maybe I'll get a referral from them. I mean, I joke because we sent out holiday cards this past holiday, and I asked the staff how many we sent out, and they said 6,500. I said 6,500. I said, well, first of all, we've been doing 1,000 deals a year for the last 4 years, so that's 4,000, and I've been doing this 17 years. The number should be like 10,000 by now. They're like, did you forget that you did not have a database until 2013? I'm like, crap,
Shoot.
I didn't keep track of anything. I mean, I didn't have a CRM up until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I would, like you, very
with
much
you.
get people in the funnel, So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but the sources of business.
Yeah, so the database, our database is also yielding some more there. So as far as sources, where our business is coming from, we are still calling expired canceled. We don't have quite as many. We actually have a lot more canceled in Phoenix than we do expired. But probate is another source that's actually been really great for us.
Interesting. And so when you say probate, you sign up for lists and, right, isn't that how you get probates through the counties or something? There's services out there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so there are services out there that you can purchase those leads from. In Phoenix, a lot of people come there to retire, so unfortunately we have a lot of people actually that pass away in Phoenix, so that list can be fairly large on any given month for
Yeah.
their 600 people.
That makes sense.
What I would say is that's very particular per personality style. I will not allow people on our team that are really high Ds and not good nurturers to call that list. By no means are we
That's
ambulance chasers whatsoever. I never want to have that come out in the community. I actually lost my mom almost right on the year anniversary last year to suicide. And in losing her, we had to deal with the house. We actually owned the house, but still in going through that process, it's a lot for a family to go through because I had to empty the house. My dad never went back to the home after that. And it was a lot, it helped me understand a lot more about the process of losing a parent and having a home to deal with. And I actually owned the home. And so we have a lot of sympathy, and I only allow people on our team to call that have either some type of relatable experience or they can really get behind my personal story when they're calling people, because there are a lot of investors out there or other people that don't have their best interests at heart. And so we want it to be very clear that when we're calling those people, that it translates, we are here to really help you, we stand out. It's a very difficult time, and whatever you need, we have all of these services in, helping the home get empty, rehabbed, cash as is, whatever it is, but just having a lot of empathy around that situation so we stand out.
Yeah, it's a much softer sell.
Very much
Much
so,
softer
yes.
sell. And probate leads aren't, their services for a few $100s a month. They'll send you the contact information, right?
Yeah, it's public record. It's public record,
Yep.
and you can get that in any state in the country.
Yeah, you sure can. And that is a good source of business because in most cases they have to sell the home, right?
It's not seasonal.
Yep, that's right. It's all the
It's
time.
not, it's not dependent on the market conditions or seasonality.
Anything you want to leave us with that we haven't covered?
I think we hit all the high points.
Good.
So, no, I think the personal development one is, just the lasting point that I'd like people to take away.
Yep.
Because a lot of times we get so stuck on, we got to go to this next class, we got to do this stuff for our business. And I think, actually, there is one last point, and I would say, when you go to look at your goals, make your personal goals first. Because one of the mistakes I made probably for the first 10 years of my business were making business goals, and then I was trying to stuff my personal in there. I have 4 kids. My oldest graduated from college last year, and when she left to college, it hit me really hard. I thought, gosh, I have not done some things the right way. I've spent too much time on business, and as leveraged as I am, I've still prioritized some of the wrong things along the way. And so I got some really great advice, which was make your personal goals first, because you're doing this to fund your life, your personal life, not in the reverse.
Yes.
And so let's not figure that out later than we have to, like I did.
Yep.
So I would say personal first and then business.
Yeah, we have a saying in our office, and of course it's now transcended through Glover U, health before wealth.
I love
Because
it. Yeah.
wealth that means nothing if you're not healthy.
That's it.
Awesome. Let's hear it for Carin Nguyen. Thank you, Carin.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Nice job. Thank you very much. Seriously, thank you. Yep.
Thank you for taking your time to join us today on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast. To get started on having an unreal business, take the real estate self-assessment. After you complete the assessment, a member of Glover U will get on a call with you to create an action plan to improve your score. Go to www.gloveru.com/self. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Search for Live Unreal with Glover U on iTunes, Podbean, or Spotify, and subscribe today. Until next time, remember, value your time. Spend it doing something more valuable.